welcome to another episode here. I want to start off this one talking about accountability. Um, we'll start off with the politics and general life accountability. I want to back up to 2020 with the riots. We talked about some of this in some of the previous. I know we heard a lot about it. I'm going to repeat myself on a lot of things just because I think it's so important that we start really paying attention to what's going on. I think there's forces from the outside that are not good. They're really trying to tear this country completely apart. They don't believe in America. They don't believe in what it stands for. They think we've just been a tyranny for centuries, and that we've just been a bad country. And there's a lot of people that believe that, and there's a lot of us that say that's just completely ridiculous, and we don't even want you in this country then. Starting with the riots, the supposedly peaceful protests. There's no accountability at all there. I mean, we had politicians going out in Seattle, New York, Portland, all these major cities. These politicians came out and was spreading all kinds of lies and no accountability at all. There was no accountability at all. I mean, maybe somebody went to jail. I don't know. You never heard about it because news don't want to report that. They want to report just the peacefulness of the people out there protesting their rights and everything. And it was just completely violence. It was completely violence. And like I say, nobody was held accountable at all throughout 2020 and since. Right now, since then, we haven't. Supreme Court justices, they picket. There's laws against this. Picketing in front of Supreme Court justices for a reason. I mean, they do that because they don't want to have our Supreme Court justices be intimidated or influenced by outside forces when it comes to the law of the land and the major decisions. And then we got people out there that just absolutely overlook the law of the land and just say, fuck you, we're going to do it anyway. So if there's no accountability, there's nothing you can do about it, period. I mean, if you don't have accountability in some sort of fashion, if you got laws on the books and you don't enforce them, then you have no accountability and you have complete chaos, which is what was created and what was per plan. You're looking back at it, that's what they had per plan the whole time. So another thing that's really gotten to me, and we've talked about, and I've voiced it on this podcast, is the schools. In our schools, I mean, we're infected throughout the whole government, and that includes schools, health, everything. Everything's infected right now with this disease of socialism, what they call themselves progressives when they really just suppress people. And you can prove it time and time again for every action they take. I mean, words are cheap. People talk, politicians talk shit when they campaign and, oh, I'm going to do this and do that. And they do just the opposite usually. I mean, they usually go there. It's all self-interest. They don't go in there to help the people that voted them in to help them. They go there to help themselves. And that's about 90% of all politicians. I don't care what side they fall on. And to be that position, you got to have a certain mindset of narcissism and just I'm better than everybody because I'm now in Congress. And that's what happens to them. They get their heads get swelled up and they're like, oh, I can make all the decisions I want. I don't care. Like Nancy Pelosi told you, oh, collateral damage. Sure, yeah, you have a few people get hurt. In the case of most of her decisions, most of her laws, it hurt more people than it helped, for sure. That can be proven time and time again. But with schools, like I said before, when we got away with corporal punishment, and then we took discipline away from parents, in a sense, we didn't just completely eliminate. You're not going to go to prison if you spank your child, but it was getting pretty close. It got to a point where, call 911, have the child removed from the home, for discipline. Now we're doing it for what? Transgender. If your child wants to have mutilation done to their body and they're only 8 or 9 years old and the parents don't agree with it, well, then the government wants to come in and step in and say, hey, we're going to do it anyway because the child wants it. Well, we're just ridiculous. We've gotten ridiculous with this stuff. And there's no accountability to the doctors. There's no accountability to the politicians that push it, professors, teachers. There's no accountability to any of them. They just do it. And then they want to sit there and go, oh, they're killing themselves and they're doing this. And what, really? Well, they were already had a problem and going on mentally. There was already something going on in their head. Instead of helping them, you turn around and give them advice to mutilate them and change their whole life and change their whole gender I guess is what you're calling it. They change their sex or whatever you're trying to do. It's not working. It's not working. Um, so schools really need to really pay attention to what they're doing, and parents need to stay vigilant. I mean, ever since it's COVID, it kind of, you know. So the next one would be COVID. I mean, go on COVID. You want to talk about accountability? Who's accountable for all the stuff that happened? Who's accountable for the schools being shut down? Who's accountable for the mass mandates that will actually harm people more than help? And we knew that when it was going on. The science told us that. They were telling us that early on, and then all of a sudden they changed in midstream because it wasn't politically correct, because they couldn't control. This disease was created by many powers purposely to infect people, to hurt people, to harm people. I mean, it was done purposely. We know that. It was done in a lab. And it was done sinister. And it was all sinister. Everything about it's bad. I mean, all the lies. Whatever happened to Fauci? He was the head of NIH, and now all of a sudden he's claiming nothing ever happened. He didn't do anything. He didn't tell nobody to close the schools. He didn't tell anybody anything. You lying son of a bitch. And Walensky, CDC director, that lady's been lying from day one. She just kind of, whatever you tell me to say, whatever you want me to say, I'll say it. And it was just bullshit. And all the rest of the talking heads, the head of the teachers union for the country, I mean, she went out there and had a direct line to the CDC, Walensky, our teachers union president, no medical background, she didn't even teach. But yet she was telling the CDC that it should keep schools closed for medical reasons. How the hell does she know? I mean, this is in front of Congress. She's testifying, and people are like, what the hell? Why do you have a number to CDC when you're just a head of a union? And yet you're giving advice on how to keep schools closed and whatnot. I mean, are you kidding me? Where have we gotten in this world where we just take anybody's word for it to get the right political, agenda? I mean, that's just ridiculous. I mean, the only truth we ever got out of anything was after it was all over. I mean, they kept this Robert Redfield out of. He was CDC director before Walensky. Then they did some changes in there because he wasn't going for it. He was saying, no, that's not true. No, that's not. And the next thing you know, he's phased out. He's gone. He's gone. You don't hear from him no more. Not until he retired and he was able to come out and speak, and things are starting to come out now, and he's able to actually open up a little bit. I mean, doctors lost their careers. Medical professionals lost their careers, their livelihood. Some may even committed suicide, Clinton suicide. I don't know. You don't hear about them. You heard about them back when it first started in California. There was a couple of doctors practicing saying, hey, no, this is all BS. The next thing, you don't hear from them at all. You don't know where they went. There was no accountability for anybody on anything. At least we could hear the truth. It's coming out. I mean, we're going to hear it sooner or later. It's too short a history. Again, it didn't happen 50 years ago. It happened 2 years ago, 3 years ago. People may remember everything that happened. And now we're going through congressional hearings in the Senate, in the House, just drilling these people. And thank God we have some conservative Republicans that came in there in the last 4 months, 5 months, and they're just tearing shit up. And you know what? More power to them. And don't slow down. Don't raise the debt ceiling. Hell no. Make them cut. We're all being cut. Inflation's just hit the country super. I can't even describe how much people are going through with inflation, with the cost of gasoline. They keep saying, oh, it went down, went back. It's the same price it was when Biden became office, shortly after he became office. It went from here in Florida from $1.76 a gallon to $3.40. Right now it's $3.40 again. So it never went up and down and got cost down. It was all just a fucking lie. A lie. And I'm going to do a little research on gas prices and how they do fluctuate, because they all tell you, oh, it's because of Saudi Arabia, or it's because of OPEC, or it's because of this, because of that. I ain't buying any of it. As soon as Biden became president, gas shot up. I mean, OPEC did that overnight? Nah, that was all pre-planned. So think what you want, but our government's in control of everything, and they've been lying to us, and there's a reason for it. Well, Biden's not a good person. He's a bad, bad man. This man's got a grandchild. We know for a fact, right? And he doesn't want to take responsibility for anything. Nothing. Not in Congress, not in the politics, not in his personal life. He's just above everybody. He's above the laws, the rules. He's just a piece of shit, is what he is. He's a brain-dead, empty shell of a man that has zero morals in life. Never has. Because, I mean, the Congress itself is so corrupt at every level, every place in our Congress. all the appointments from this administration, all the top secretaries, they just lie through their teeth, lie through their teeth. And if you look at these people, it's like, what a bunch of clowns. These are all the clowns from the fucking 70s and 80s that were fucking, anti-war, Vietnam, spitting on the veterans, doing all this shit, and now they're in charge of our country. And most of them from California. And we're thinking, what, now, Gavin Newsom's the answer to everybody's problem? You seen California lately? Gavin Newsom's a joke. He's a freaking joke. And to think that he's going to be our president, so now we got enough California people that are screwing up America already. We don't need the leader from California that just screwed up San Francisco to start with, and then went to the state as governor and screwing up the whole state. Yeah, we want him in the White House. Yeah, that's just the guy we want. What a joke. But Congress itself is completely corrupt at every level. And we got Mitch McConnell in there, on the Senate side, the leadership. He's a joke. He's a joke. He's bought off. He's China bought. And yeah, every once in a while says something good, or, oh, we're not going to do this and we're not going to do that. But he always does what they want. I mean, always has. I mean, him and Schumer are tight. Schumer's a piece of shit, obviously. All the Democrats in the Senate, they have no morals, no values, no nothing. It's just all games to them. It's just all, hey, we know how to do it. It's all this game about fighting each other. And don't care about the American people. Just say, yeah, what we believe is what we believe. Fuck the American people. So until we get a hold of that, until we start calling people and hold them accountable, right? Hold them accountable. There's laws out there in the books. If we can't enforce them, because that's what comes back to our DOJ. I mean, that's part of our government. That's part of, of Biden's freaking staff, Merrick Garland, the guy that Obama wanted to be in the Supreme Court, as opposed to, Kavanaugh. I mean, look what Kavanaugh went through. Where's the accountability of that fucking bitch that claimed that he raped her, and the other bitch that claimed he gang raped her? They had no accountability at all. They were just out there, screaming and yelling, and came out of the middle of nowhere. Some professor out of California claims that he raped her and all this stuff. This Blasio DeFord or whatever. What a lying bitch she was. I mean, everybody's seen it. I mean, it's all politics. It's no different what Trump's going through for some woman in 1990 something. Just got, a judgment against him. Whatever you people are doing, do what you want to do. It ain't going to stop him from being president just because you want to politicize something that you all do. Every one of you. Remember Clinton? I remind you. There was a Walensky. She wasn't in CDC. She was just the aide that spit and didn't swallow. Where was that DNA on Trump? Clinton had DNA against him. Trump just got a bunch of women together cackling like, Kamala Harris. Oh, yeah, he raped me. Oh, yeah, okay. Whatever you say. Anyway, so if we don't get a hold of the Department of Justice, that's the highest court, that's the highest position in the land to make decisions on everything that happens. Everything. The COVID, the schools, the riots, everything ends up at Department of Justice feet. And if they want to prosecute, they'll prosecute. If they don't, they won't. And right now, they only prosecute conservative people. Bottom line. They do it time and time again. We see it every day. This Merrick Garland, he's a bad person. He's a bad person. He's a spineless snake, is what he is. Him and Blinken and all these people that came in with Trump or Biden, they were all just leftovers from freaking Obama. Michael and Barack Hussein, they were just leftovers from them, and they were there the whole time. They were hidden back in there the whole time somewhere in the bureaucracy, and then as soon as they fucking got Trump out, which was all per plan, the fraud, everything. Then all they started coming out like snakes out of the grass, man. They just started coming out everywhere. And we're going to find out more and more. It's going to come out. As long as our representatives and our senators don't give up and don't back down and don't think the American people are going to believe these freaking Democrats no more. It's you that's got to stand up to them and make them understand we don't believe them no more. Not the people you represent. So there's a handful of people out there making noise and making trouble and all this. It's not the way we're representing. And we need you to keep fighting for everybody. Because right now we got AI coming in. And AI is a scary, scary thing to me. It seems very dangerous. It seems like it can be very manipulated in what it does. I mean, it's just another form of humanity in a computer sense. And it's smarter than the human. How long is it going to be before it turns around and says, hey, we need to annihilate these people because they're fucking stupid. They're already killing each other. They lie to each other. They don't tell the truth. AI is going to catch on to it and just fucking destroy the whole world. I mean, fucking ain't going to put up with too much of it. How can it? I mean, we're going back and forth on different things. I mean, when we talk about stuff and you want to talk about accountability again, I still want to stay on this whole accountability because there's zero. And when you have zero accountability, especially in politics, that means you can run rogue and do whatever you want, especially if you're in charge and you don't talk to nobody and you stay hidden in the basement. Or if you do come out, you just babble stuff that nobody knows what you're saying, shaking hands with visible people, or petting a bunny rabbit, I don't know. I mean, you do so many weird things, Biden, that nobody even knows where you're coming from. Nobody knows who you are. You're just a shell of a man. You're not even a shell of a man. You're not even a man. You're a piece of shit, is what you are. Trying to pretend you're like you're a president of the country. You've been in Congress for 50 years. Who gives a shit? That's a proof that you should be out of there. You have screwed up this country for 50 years. Not had one good thing to say about this country. All you've done is screw it up. I want to go into this, with Tucker Carlson again. It's very important that we keep pounding this and pounding this. My man Tucker, this dude is righteous. This dude has it down. He's got it figured out. Not everybody agrees with him. I don't agree with everything he says, but 99% of the stuff. Does a lot of research. The man's a smart man, and he's got no side. He's got no dog in the fight. He was born rich. He don't need the money. We need his voice. We need his voice of reason and his voice of sense. And the people and the context that he's created throughout his career, you need to have those people talking through him and let him express it to where we can understand what's really going on and not take it for granted and not say it's all, because we know a lot of these things are lies. And he put it so well, that's why he's not there no more at Fox. And I'll tell you right now, Fox has got to go. So people that are still watching Fox, and like I said, I've got respect for Hannity, Sean Hannity, and Laura Ingraham and Jesse Waters and all the other cast there. I've got respect for them. But I got no respect for Fox News, and they're just at the wrong station. They chose to work there. They didn't choose to see what's happening. There's other media outlets. Whatever. I'm just saying we need, as a society, to prove to people, listen, we're not going to put up with it. We didn't put up with it with Bud Light, and we're not going to put up with Fox News. Until they're destroyed and they have no more ratings, you got to hit them where it counts. I'm not saying go blow up some Fox News station. No, hit them where it counts. All these people know is lawyers and dollars and ratings, and since the dollars come from ratings for commercials, because the higher you get rated and more people are watching, the more you get commercial money. Quit watching. I pretty much beg you to quit watching Fox News, quit drinking Bud Light. Send a message out there to these people that are in charge of this shit that it ain't going to happen. Every time you do that, you go woke, you're going to go broke. You're going to go broke. No doubt about it. We got to make sure that happens as a society, as the other side, as a side that's trying to keep our sanity and trying to understand what the hell is really going on out there. Because a person like me, like I said before, a baby boomer, just can't grasp all this stuff. And this is what purposely, right? I mean, they throw shit out there and then they try to make it stick, and then they get your mind all screwed up because it's not normal for you to think that way. It's all queer, if you want to use that term. It's all kind of queer when things start getting turned upside down. You're like, what in the fuck? And then pretty soon they want you to break. They want you to break and get pissed off and do something stupid. Just don't. Just ignore it, I was talking to a person that said, well, what life does it have affected for certain people saying for certain things on TV? Do they say it to you personally? I'm like, no. And I started thinking about, probably doesn't have much effect on my life, but it depends on why they're saying it and what they're doing and what they're trying to do. So you got to still stay vigilant. You still got to pay attention to what they're saying and why they're saying it. But you also got to keep in mind, well, it's not really whether the man landed on the moon, the flag wasn't waving. That doesn't change my life at all. If it did or didn't, doesn't change. I don't care. I don't care if it was a hoax or it wasn't a hoax. Doesn't matter. Whether the world's round or flat, doesn't matter. Those kind of issues are irrelevant to me. So to even talk about it, somebody brings up one side and somebody brings up the other, I'm just like, I don't care. I don't care. Am I supposed to hold on now because the world's flat and it's going to start turning and I don't know gravity no more? I don't know. I don't know what to say. All I can say is I've never seen a big news flash saying, "Hey, the world's flat." Hang on. So, like I say, some things don't really matter. Some things you can throw out there and they really are irrelevant. But some things that get thrown out there get thrown out for a reason, and the terminology changes for a reason. But we got to hold those people accountable when they say these things. We're gonna, well, what are you talking about? No, you got to back up a little bit. You just can't say that and then turn around and go, "Oh, well, it doesn't matter. I said it." No, you got to be able to back facts, everything up, and we don't do that. We just let it happen. You know what I mean? I mean, it's really tough to hold people accountable when you got the top of the food chain as the Department of Justice, is the top guy. It's Merrick Garland, and that guy is a useless piece of shit. He's partisan as hell. Still mad because he never got to be, fucking Supreme Court justice. God help us. Thank God. There's some little jackass like that in there on the Supreme Court. Jeez. We got enough bad people in there already. We need to have people in there individuals that will treat the Constitution fairly, what it's written for, and get these people out there and go, yeah, well, they wrote that, but they really probably meant this, so we're going to go this way. No, you got to stick with shit. I mean, I'm still trying to figure out, maybe somebody could tell me what happened, because I don't know. And I've been watching the news and watching all the different channels and stuff, and haven't heard much about Ohio and that train derailment. We talked about that a little bit when it first came out. And gave me my take on it. But there's been no accountability for that either. I mean, we just burned up how much chemicals in a freaking city, our little town, just destroyed the town. I mean, we destroyed it. I don't know. Haven't heard much about if anybody's ever died there, because the story went away. It was like, oh, it never happened. No, it happened. Whatever happened to Erin Brockovich? I mean, this was a woman they made a movie about. It was like a freaking #1 movie. She's had best-selling books. We praised her. This was a freaking person in our history, in our time, in our lifetime that we've seen that was, monumental with the oil and gas companies and what she did. And now I see her pop up there in Ohio and kind of the same thing. Hey, fighting for the people. Hey, the water could be contaminated. Hey, this is really, really bad. Next thing you know, she's gone. I haven't heard from her. I don't know where she went. I don't know if she committed suicide or she dropped the case or somebody did something to her. Rumors out there, though, she lost her license or her law license by the Bar Association. Well, that doesn't surprise me. I mean, look at Rudy Giuliani. Look at everybody else that spoke up for Trump. They lost their shit. They were held accountable, not sure for what. Still haven't been told why Rudy Giuliani lost his bar license to be a lawyer. Nobody's really said that because they keep that shit under wraps. They don't really publicize it. And what they do publicize is all lies. It's just all, and it's dangerous out there to do this. It's very dangerous to spread these lies and do these things, and it affects everybody. So I really think that we need to figure out what happened in Ohio, whatever came out of it. Did they ever get the water under control? Is all the chemicals now cleaned up and gone 100%? Are the people still okay there now? We don't hear nothing. This has come from administrations not transparent. They're the most fucking hidden, lying administration ever in history. Ever. I watch it. I follow politics, and they're the worst. Whoever's running that administration, and it's not Biden, it's Obama. They're doing it from the shells of their home and laughing the whole time. Laughing the whole time. Think it's funnier than hell. Got what they wanted. It's getting scary. So let's jump onto. I want to kind of change course a little bit with the accountability to going from like the politics side of stuff into a work side of it, to how it can affect a corporation or how it can affect the industry or society as a whole with accountability. Even in the workplace, accountability is most important. I mean, you have rules out there that you set as an industry that you work in. Me, I'm in the rail industry all my life, so that's what I talk about most of the time. I've done other things, and I can throw my 2 cents on a lot of things, but I try to, with this podcast, I'm trying to stick with the rail for the most part, because that's what I know most of my life. And the railroad is a dangerous occupation to start with. I mean, every tool's heavy. A track jack, claw bar, lining bar, sledgehammer, they're all 12, 15. You get to a track jack, 25, 30 pounds. There's nothing light about it. It's hard work, grueling hard work all the time. But the only way you can teach and mentor people and try to make good workers or maybe future foremen, supervisors, is you have to do it through accountability. And I don't mean you have to be hardcore all the time. I just mean you have to have accountability. You got to be able to fire somebody if they're breaking the rules more than once or if you've given them a chance. But yeah, you got to give people a chance, and it depends on what it is. Like I've told all my employees, always I give a speech. I'll have your back. As your supervisor, I will have your back the best I can until you do something so bad that I can't have it. And that's happened to them a couple times in my life, but most of the time I've had everybody's back. That's worked for me. I've tried to keep their back. I've tried to, if there was trouble, it was like, sometimes I even took the blame, knowing that I'm not going to get fired. But if they took the blame, they might. And I always tell everybody at the same time, do as I tell you. Don't do as I do. Because if you do what I do, good chance you're going to lose your job. I was able to get away with shit a lot more than people because of, I guess, I don't know why. I try to keep common sense. I try to keep, a steady, consistent accountability for everybody across the board, including, family. My son, fired him twice. So as long as you keep that accountability and you're consistent with it, then you'll gain respect. And in the workplace, no different than anywhere else in life, you have to earn respect. And you have to give respect in order to earn it. It goes both ways. It's not like you just can go out there as a foreman, a supervisor, start yelling at people and think you're going to get their respect. It doesn't work. You got to go out, lay the law, and pretty much tell them right from the start, this is the way it's going to be. I'm in charge. I got to answer to the fucking boss. So you're going to do what I tell you. And we're going to do it by the book. And we're going to do it safely. And we're going to do it right. And if you've got any questions while we're doing stuff, ask me. Talk to me so that we can work through it and make sure that we're doing everything safely. And that, there might be some times in my career, obviously, with some shortcuts. Like I told people, don't do what I do. Do what I tell you. Because I have taken shortcuts. But I've never tried to really push that on anybody because, like I say, I wouldn't have nobody do anything I wouldn't do, but I also don't want people doing stuff that I did do that could get them in trouble. So with that said, to me, that's still kind of accountability. Myself, I've been accountable a couple times. I've been fired twice in my career. And both times, I never argued about it. I never fought about it. I never went back and said, hey, you shouldn't have fired me. I knew both times why I was fired. Second time, I might have wrote a letter and said, hey, I really could use the job. But the reality was, no, I couldn't even do the job. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't stay awake. It was graveyard, working at Central Mine, in a coal mine. I was working temporary and swing shift, no problem. As soon as they put me on graveyard, it became a problem because I wasn't meant for graveyard. I couldn't adjust my body to work all night and then sleep during the day. I just couldn't do it. I mean, I tried. But as soon as I went to permanent to graveyard, I knew I was going to lose that job. And it wasn't very shortly after that. I mean, I was only there about a week so after the second time I didn't show up for work, it was like, hey, we've already talked to you, blah, blah, blah. I already knew. I knew it was done. So I was fired. Moved on, another hour job. And then I was fired for running a crane, a big derrick crane. So I think it's 60 ton, huge. Use it for bridge work and material peddling, and B&B uses them a lot. Tractor department maintenance way, not as much. But we have one on with our company, and so I had an incident earlier where I broke my leg or my ankle, and so I was in a cast. Well, the company was nice enough to let me keep working, and drive the high rail. I can get in and out of the high rail no problem, and inspect. I get open door and I get out and look around a little bit, and I had a walking cast after a bit. So the company was okay, and hey, we're still getting by. I'm still doing the work and stuff. Well, I got this wild hair to run the crane. Why I had a broken leg, and I don't know if that was anything to do with anything, but sometimes reactions, things happen. It's nice to have all your parts working fast. At that point, I made a big mistake. So I had a load of ties, and I was getting ready to. I was pedaling bundles of ties of 25 that I had behind me on a flat car that we'd hook up with a cable, and then I'd swing around and pedal them and go to the next. Swing around, grab another bundle, move it down, however far. So that's what we were doing. And it was along Highway 12, coming out of Montesano, going toward Elma. There was a bypass road here on the one side, and then there's the railroad tracks I was on, and then there's Highway 12 where the major traffic went on, coming from Aberdeen to Olympia. And so I get my second bundle, set it down, go back, grab the third bundle, turn around, start moving. Wasn't paying attention. It's one of those times I wasn't looking ahead. Didn't see the power line. Another power line story. Near death, I guess. That one wasn't really near death because it was a small power line that was going from the farmer property, across the railroad tracks, across the highway, over to his field, over to a water pump that irrigated the field. So that's what the power is for. Not a major power line, but definitely power line. Well, so when I hit the brakes when I seen it. I slammed on the brakes on the machine with the weight of the ties and the machine. It just kept pushing. And I thought I got stopped, and right when the thing stopped, the wire snapped, and it was like, fuck. I looked to my left, and I seen the wire snap and pull back on that side of the road and dangle from the telephone pole. Then I look over to my right, and there's two telephone poles, one on either side of the freeway, and it had swooped down, right, because it broke, so it was straight across with a little bit of freaking dip into it. Now it's hanging down, a couple, 3 feet lower, and I thought, shit, so I called 911, and I'm talking to dispatch, and I said, yeah, I'm with the piece, the railroad company, and I'm on a piece of equipment, and I hit a power line here right outside of Montesano, going toward Elma on the freeway. The line came down over the road, and as I was talking on the phone, I look over, and a semi came through and caught that wire with its trailer right above the cab and ripped like 20 feet or so, just sheared through the trailer, ripped the metal back. But when it did that, right when it hit it, it took both telephone poles on either side of the freeway and snapped them. Fuck. I mean, it snapped them, that wire, everything came. I looked over and everything was coming to a stop, and I seen those poles fall, and I'm on 911. I said, never mind. I hung up and just headed down to the office and, dealt with it after that. Obviously, I was terminated. Big problem. But that's accountability. I mean, I went back knowing that I was going to be fired. I mean, there's no way I couldn't have been. I mean, working with the cast, I wasn't supposed to be running the machine. Many factors in there that should never happen that would have saved that whole incident. But the biggest thing was the moral to that story would be I wasn't paying attention to the power line. Whether I had a broken leg or not, I don't think that really slowed me down too much to stop. But it was the fact that when I spun, grabbed another bundle, spun back around, I just took off without really paying attention to what was out in front of me overhead with a crane like that. I've been in situations in my life with cranes and incidents, so I know better. So yeah, I got to take as much heat as anybody. But that's accountability. And what are you going to do? What are you going to do? I had another incident in downtown Seattle when I first went to work for this other company that was doing streetcars. It's what we called Black Wednesday. Wasn't real familiar with the track that was being built in the streetcar industry. That was new to me. So it was new to me to do the kind of track work we were doing where you're just digging out the whole street and then replacing it with concrete and rail, right? So a different concept than I was used to. But I caught on quickly. But this part of it, I had a foreman and iron workers and stuff that were tying rebar underneath the plates of an intersection, a main artery into downtown Seattle. And I talked to the foreman, He's like, yeah, it was like 4 in the morning. I said, we got to have it open, between 5:45 and 6 because that's when the main traffic starts coming in for rush hour. Can't have it closed. Can't be closed. It was drilled in my head that we serve the public first and then the job second. So always, don't interrupt the city. Well, about 6 o'clock, my foreman called and said, oh, I messed up. I got to redo these plates. I got to reconfigure them. I didn't put them on, start them right. And I understood what he was talking about, but now we're looking at another half hour to an hour, and I'm like, oh, fuck. So my boss got wind of it, and he was heading that way, and I was on a different project a couple blocks away, digging another piece of the street. And he was like, well, we got a problem now. I said, yeah. And I said, I got to go see the mayor, and I'm going to throw you under the bus. And I was like, well, you can't throw me under the bus. I was driving the bus. How are you going to throw me under? It's all my fault. And I took full responsibility, even to the point where I went and, actually put in my letter of resignation because I felt so bad about what had happened. I mean, it held up traffic. It held up traffic on I-5 as far back as Federal Way on the south end, and on the north end all the way to University of Washington. So it was held up crazy. I mean, I got home that night. It was on the news, and at that time, yeah, so I was like, oh, look at the news. Yeah, that was me. Laugh about it now, but it wasn't funny back then at all. And it was major. And the accountability for that would have been me losing my job. That's why I gave a resignation. And fortunately, they didn't accept it. And we talked about it, and there was a little reprimandation, but not much. But it was like, hey, it's a good lesson learned. Well, another scenario in the same area, same city, Seattle, where accountability really probably wasn't never held, and I don't even know if it should have been. But so I was digging through the street, first getting off the asphalt concrete. You always remove that first, and then you start potholing with the locates and whatnot. Well, there was fiber going through the middle of the street, and it was level 1, I believe, or level 3, the company, which high priority. Got to call them first and say, hey, we need a monitor out there so you can be here when we dig. And it's that high of a level. A really important thing. So the guy meets with me out there, and we look where all the paint marks are and where the fiber's going through and where I got a saw cut and where I got to dig. And he's like, yeah. And so the day before, I said, yeah. And I already saw cut it. I said, no, we saw cut here, and then we're going to pop this out, and then we'll start potholing, procedure. And we'll go from there. He goes, okay, well, I'll be here at 7 in the morning. So, because we start at 7. And 7 o'clock in the morning, he wasn't there. And I call him. He's like, oh, I got called to a meeting. I'll be there shortly. Just get started. I said, well, I thought this was pretty important because the man had said to me, this line goes into this motel or hotel, the Westin Inn in Seattle, in the basement or something, and that it's the main hub that goes from there to Russia, Alaska, China. It goes all over the world, internet. He said, this is the main hub for the world. I went, wow. It's pretty serious. So I was kind of, a little bit nervous digging there. And I was like, oh, okay. So I get it. So we saw a cut, and the next morning he didn't show up. I said, okay, I'll start digging, but, you told me you had to be here. He's like, well, no, I'll be there. You'll be all right. So, just get that hard stuff out, and then we start potholing. I said, yeah, okay. So I start popping it up, and I'm right there with the machine operator right on site. And like the second scoop, I see him taking out the asphalt concrete, and I see red tape, and I see freaking conduit. And I stop him. Well, he'd only picked it up about a foot or so where I could actually even see anything. Until you get up that high, you can't even see what's underneath. You don't know what's going on. So as soon as it came up high enough where I could see, I seen the red tape instantly. I was like, stop. I said, we got a problem. He's like, what? I said, that fucking shit's poured right in the concrete. So the actual conduit was just like you had about a foot of concrete or 8 inches to a foot. And then you had like 6 or 8 inches of asphalt on top of that. So that's what you're supposed to get rid of first. You saw a cut, get rid of that, and then you go through and find out where the pipe is and all that. It's called potholing. But this was buried in part of the concrete. So once you pull the concrete up, that came with it. And I was like, holy shit. So he stopped. Well, we'd already broke it. We'd already broken the pipe. It had already freaking, the saw cutter that I cut the day before had already cut through the conduit because it was in the concrete. They just didn't go deep enough, even enough to even break the concrete. So they didn't go deep enough. If they would have went deeper with a saw blade, They would have cut the lines right then, and we'd had a problem the day before. But they barely went into the conduit and didn't disrupt the line. So the next day when I broke it, it was all hell broke loose. I mean, these two black Suburbans showed up within. So I called the guy and said, "Hey, I hit the line." He's like, "What?" I said, "No, this shit, you got to come see it. It was buried right in the freaking concrete." And I was trying to explain to him. He was there about 5 minutes. I don't know where his meeting was, but he was right there. And along with him came two Suburbans, and they came on each end of the block. One up on the end of the block up by the Westin Motel, and one at the other end of the block on a different block. So it was like two blocks, and we were in the middle of those two blocks digging across the street. So they had to replace that line from that block to that block where we busted it. And this is a major line. So so things started getting heated. And the guy comes up to me and he's like, what the hell happened? I said, look, how am I going to avoid that? How do I avoid that when it's poured in the concrete? You can't even pothole it. Well, he went back and forth a little bit, and then he said, well, I'm not worried about that right now. We just need to worry about getting it repaired. Can you help us? I said, well, I'll do whatever my boss lets me do. And so I called my boss. And he goes, yeah, let's do whatever we can do. So we had to have a backhoe there to help pull the wire. And they had guys, these men in black on both ends of these corners with tents set up, and they were there all night. I mean, they worked on this shit. It was all these little fiber wires, and there was thousands of them. I mean, it wasn't an easy fix. It was major. Ended up being 4 or 5 guys at each corner, taking turns, working around until it's done. So pretty major. And we lowered the conduit, and then the guy from the level 1 or level 3, whatever it was, came to me and said, hey, we got to put a steel plate over that. I said, well, I never dug one out. He goes, steel plates are expensive. I mean, they can be up to $3, $4, $8, $10,000 a plate, depending on how thick it is, how big it is, and you don't just have them laying around. You use them for the streets, and you use them for the whole construction. So you buy a bunch of them. Well, he's like, oh, no, we got to have one there. I said, well, my point is there wasn't one there, but you're telling me it's code to have one there? And somebody really fucked up when they did this, because they didn't put one on top of it. I said, as a matter of fact, it was poured in the concrete. How'd they get away with that? Because he's telling me this was only done in 1990 something. I said, so how'd they get away with that? How'd they get away with this? Now I'm going to take the blame now and the heat for this? I said, absolutely not. I said, you can do whatever you want. We'll help you out and stuff. But yeah, you guys have to figure that one out. Well, later I get called in for deposition because we're being sued by level 3 over this whole, thing. So I had to fly to Denver. That's where their headquarters are. And they had their lawyer there, and we had a company lawyer I met there. And that was it, plus one other person that was mediator or something. I don't know what it was. And they only asked me a few questions, but it started out with, why didn't you pothole? I said, I did. I said, but I couldn't pothole that. I said, it was in the hard surface. And the guy said, well, couldn't you take a cord drill and cord through that? I said, well, yeah, I'd just cord right through it. I said, I would just cord right through the conduit. We'd have the same problem just a day earlier. I said, and that's not the way you do it. I said, I haven't been taught that. Standard in the industry is get rid of the hard surface, dig by hand, pothole a foot or so, dig that, and then dig by another hand, and that's how you pothole. I don't know any different. If you know something different, go ahead. But I'm telling you right now, if we were to core drill that, we would have core drilled right through the pipe. So we would have the same problem. So I don't know what that comparison even means. And they're like, well, do you remember the guy that told you? I said, no, I don't remember his name. I can tell you what he looked like. I said he looked like Dennis Miller, the comedian. And the guy was a spitting image of Dennis Miller. I said, no, the guy looked like Dennis Miller. Well, apparently they do the same thing, because they're like, oh, okay. They didn't even argue. I didn't know his name, but I know what he looked like. No doubt in my mind. So that's how that whole incident went. And the accountability for that was, I guess I had to go do a deposition. It got to that level where I had to go tell the truth and say, I don't know what I could have done different. Or the other side is just trying to make up shit. And, well, you could have done this. No, you couldn't. No, you couldn't. And I don't know how it ended up at the end, whether we lost or won or considered losing. I mean, when you've got to pay that much to lawyers, and then if there is any kind of loss whatsoever, it's a loss no matter what. It's a loss just to have to go to trial. It's a loss just to do a definition to send me in cost and the attorney. It's already a loss. And it shouldn't even have been a case. It should have been like, this was cut and dried. Now we got court systems that are calling this a case. It's calling this as something that we as a company were responsible for. That wasn't me. I wasn't the city government. I wasn't the state government. I wasn't the federal government that made these regulations, how deep you're supposed to put them and what you're supposed to do. Later, come to find out in the trial, I guess, was no, they took that major fiber optic line that's so important around the world, it would shut down the world, and went up over top of gas line because they couldn't fucking go underneath it. It was too deep, so they went over top, and that's how they got so fucking shallow. Not my problem again. Wasn't on no drawings. It wasn't on no freaking red lines or nothing. You don't know that it came up and over 2 feet, or it should have been 4 feet deeper, and it's only a foot and a half in the concrete and the asphalt. It should be down another 2 feet or more with a plate over it across the road so you never hit it. I don't know. You'll have to decide that one. All I know is nothing I can do about it. Um, and that's pretty much my take on accountability. If we don't have accountability in the workforce, and no matter what industry you're in, you don't have nothing. You'll lose everything. Accountability is just law and order in different form, right? And we don't have it nowhere in society right now. We've lost it. We've given it away. We purposely have made the criminals the victims and the victims the criminal. Make no mistake about that. And we have to change that. We have to get that back to where we can actually, I don't know. I mean, I don't even know how to explain it. And I don't even know if there's a solution. It's hard to argue with people that just lie and change lies that you, and then have to change words and definitions to make the lies work. It's hard to deal with people like that. I don't know if there's an answer. Looking for solutions. I don't know if there's an answer other than just be that person that holds accountability consistently. You can't change up. You can't say, oh, I just did this to this guy, but I'm going to do something different to this guy. And I might have done that in my career here and there, very, very rarely. If I did, very rarely. I don't even remember a time I can even say. Maybe somebody might come up with something. Oh, remember when you did it? I don't know. For the most part, everybody's the same. You do your fucking job, or you fucking get out. That's how I ran my fucking life. You either fucking pull your weight, or fucking leave. And I feel the same way about people in America that just really despise America because we're so tyranny and we've been such a bad country for so. Just go. Just leave. We don't need you here. We're happy with it. It's made a good life for me and my family, and they're still benefiting from it, of America. It's getting harder and harder. The people that are anti-American, it's getting harder and harder to be an American. But we got to figure out some way of getting it back and handling it. All right, well, until next time, later.